Tommy was only 12, but he carried the weight of the world on his small shoulders. His family had never had much. His dad left when he was too young to remember, and his mom worked long hours at a laundromat just to make ends meet. Still, Tommy never complained. Every day he would help his mom around the house, cleaning and cooking when he could, doing everything he could to make her life a little easier. But today was different. It was Mother's Day, and Tommy wanted to give his mom something special, something that would make her smile the way she always smiled at him. The one thing she loved more than anything in the world was flowers. Tommy remembered how, every year, she would buy a small bouquet from the corner store and place them in a vase by the window. The sight of those flowers always seemed to brighten her face, no matter how tired she was from work. "I'll get her some flowers this year," Tommy thought, determination filling him. "I'll make it the best Mother's Day ever." With the last of his savings, coins he had been collecting for months from odd jobs and chores, he set off for the local flower shop. The shop was small but bright, filled with every color imaginable. He could already imagine the joy on his mom's face when she saw the bouquet he would bring home. It was going to be perfect. But when he stepped inside, a wave of doubt hit him. The cheapest bouquet was still more than the few dollars in his pocket. Tommy bit his lip. He couldn't go back empty-handed. He couldn't disappoint his mom, not after everything she had done for him. He lingered near the counter, hesitating, the flowers just out of reach. His fingers brushed the petals of a vibrant sunflower, but it felt like an impossible dream. He had no choice but to ask. "Excuse me," Tommy said, his voice small. "How much are the flowers?" The shopkeeper, a gruff man with an unkind glare, looked at him like he was out of place. $5 for that small bouquet," he muttered before turning away. Tommy's heart sank. He didn't have enough. He couldn't leave without those flowers, not today. The weight of his mother's sacrifice felt heavier than ever. Tommy stepped out of the flower shop, the doorbell chiming behind him. His heart was heavy as he stood on the sidewalk, watching people walk by with flowers in their hands, heading to celebrations and gatherings. But he had nothing. Just a handful of coins that weren't nearly enough to buy the bouquet that would make his Mother's Day special. He looked down at his pockets and a lump formed in his throat. "Maybe I can do something else," he whispered to himself. "Maybe I can find a way to earn the money." With determination renewed, Tommy set off toward the park. He had seen people there before, willing to pay for odd jobs, anything that would help them get by. He would ask, he told himself, even if it meant scrubbing benches or sweeping the streets. Anything to raise enough to buy his mom the flowers she deserved. Tommy approached a man sitting on a bench, sipping from a coffee cup. "Excuse me, sir," he said shyly, trying to hide the desperation in his voice. "I'll do anything to earn some money. I need to buy flowers for my mom. Could you help me out?" The man glanced at him with a dismissive look, clearly not interested. "Kid, go find work somewhere else. I'm not paying for a flower-fetching mission," he muttered, barely acknowledging Tommy before turning his attention back to his phone. Tommy felt a sharp pang in his chest. Rejection wasn't new to him, but it always stung just the same. He moved on, looking for someone else who might have a different response. He tried a few more people, asking if they had any work for him, but each one either ignored him or turned him away. One man even laughed when Tommy offered to clean his car windows, shaking his head in disbelief. "Go on, kid, not everyone has money for flowers," he said with a cruel chuckle. With each failure, Tommy's hope began to fade. He had walked for hours, trying everything he could think of, but nothing worked. His stomach growled in hunger, his legs were tired, and his heart was heavy with the crushing realization that he might never make it. Just as he was about to give up, a woman's voice broke through his thoughts. "Hey, are you okay?" Tommy turned around, startled. Standing there was a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, holding a small basket of groceries. The woman's kind eyes seemed to soften when she saw the sadness in Tommy's face. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked again, stepping closer. Her voice was gentle, as though she could sense that something was wrong. Tommy felt a lump form in his throat. I'm just trying to get some flowers for my mom. It's for Mother's Day, but I don't have enough money," he admitted, his voice wavering. The woman raised an eyebrow, her expression thoughtful. "Flowers for your mom, huh? That's sweet of you." She glanced at the nearby flower shop. "But it's not easy, is it? They always charge too much, don't they?" Tommy nodded, his eyes lowering. "I tried to get a job or something to make some money, but no one will help. I just want to make her happy. I don't want to let her down." The woman smiled warmly. "I get it. I really do. Sometimes it feels like the world is against you when all you want to do is something nice for the people you love." She paused for a moment, her eyes studying him. "Tell you what, I won't just give you the money for those flowers, but I'll give you a challenge. A lesson if you will. Tommy frowned, confused. A challenge? What do you mean? She chuckled softly. It's simple. I'll help you, but not in the way you might expect. I'll give you a small task to complete, and if you succeed you'll earn enough to buy those flowers. And who knows? It might teach you something more important than just getting the money. Tommy was uncertain. He wasn't sure what kind of task she was talking about, but his desperation for the flowers clouded his judgment. I'll do anything, he said quickly, willing to take any chance that might help him. The woman's smile widened, but there was something in her eyes, something knowing, as though she had seen this situation before. All right then. I'll give you a task, but remember, there's a bigger lesson behind it. It's about more than just what you want. Before Tommy could ask any more questions, the woman reached into her purse and handed him a crumpled bill. Go to the bakery down the street and buy something small for your mom. I'll be watching to see if you follow through. Tommy blinked in surprise, holding the money in his hand. But before he could speak, she turned and walked away, leaving him standing there, more confused than ever. What did she mean by a lesson? Could this really be the answer Tommy was looking for? Tommy stood frozen on the sidewalk, the crumpled bill in his hand. He stared after the woman, unsure of what to make of her words. What was the lesson she meant? A task? A small favor? He had no idea. All he knew was that he was holding money now, money he could use to buy the flowers for his mom, something he had dreamed of all day. He looked at the bakery down the street. It was just a few blocks away, and the window glowed with the soft light of pastries, warm, inviting, and filled with the scent of fresh bread. The idea of buying something for his mom suddenly felt silly. Why not just go straight to the flower shop? He could buy her a single stem, maybe even two, something small that would make her smile. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. But the woman's challenge lingered in his mind. There's a bigger lesson behind it, she had said. Tommy clenched his fists, thinking of his mom. What would she want him to do? Would she be disappointed if he ignored the challenge? A deep breath filled his chest, and with that, the decision was made. He walked towards the bakery, his shoes tapping the pavement in a steady rhythm. Inside, the small bell above the door jingled, announcing his arrival. The clerk behind the counter glanced up, and Tommy, with the money clutched tightly in his hand, stepped forward. I'd like to buy something small, Tommy said, trying to keep his voice steady. The woman had told him to buy something small for his mom, but he had no idea what. Should he get a loaf of bread? Maybe a muffin? It felt wrong, he wasn't even sure why. But he was following the task, trusting that this would somehow lead him to the flowers. The clerk raised an eyebrow at him, clearly not used to seeing someone so young buying anything. You sure about that, kid? This place isn't exactly a charity. Tommy nodded quickly, feeling the sting of humiliation rise in his chest. It's for my mom, he mumbled, avoiding the clerk's gaze. I'm just doing what I can. The clerk shrugged, then grabbed a small pastry from the shelf, placing it in a bag. Here you go. That'll be $2. Tommy handed over the crumpled bill and, without another word, left the bakery. As he stepped outside, a strange feeling washed over him, a mix of pride and confusion. Had he done the right thing? What was the purpose of the pastry? What had the woman truly meant by her lesson? Would it be enough to unlock the next step to his goal? Tommy walked slowly back toward the flower shop, the small pastry in hand. It felt like an absurd detour. How could this little treat ever compare to the bouquet of flowers he had dreamed of buying? It was so simple, so insignificant, yet the woman's words echoed in his mind. There's a bigger lesson behind it. He wasn't sure what to expect, but by the time he reached the flower shop again, the sense of uncertainty had grown. He couldn't ignore the thought that perhaps the challenge wasn't about the pastry at all. Maybe it was about how he chose to spend what little he had. Was it about the effort or the intent behind it? Maybe it was teaching him something about giving, not just receiving. Tommy pushed open the door of the flower shop, feeling more nervous than he had before. The shopkeeper, who had been so curt with him earlier, looked up from behind the counter. Tommy walked toward the same display of flowers he had seen before, holding the small bakery bag like a token of his journey. I've got something for my mom, Tommy said quietly, his heart thudding in his chest. The shopkeeper raised an eyebrow but didn't say anything, waiting for him to continue. Tommy hesitated but then opened the bag, revealing the simple pastry. I didn't have enough for the flowers, but I thought I could give her this instead. It's small but she'll like it. I just want to make her smile. For a moment there was only silence. The shopkeeper studied Tommy's face and then, to Tommy's surprise, his expression softened. Kid, you've got a good heart. Before Tommy could respond, the shopkeeper walked over to the cooler, pulling out a small bouquet of flowers, a perfect mix of colors, bright and beautiful. He handed them to Tommy, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "The flowers are on the house," the shopkeeper said, his voice a little gentler now. "You've got something more valuable than money, love for your mom. That's what counts. Sometimes you don't need to buy love. You just need to show it." Tommy's eyes widened, disbelief spreading across his face. "But I don't have enough." The shopkeeper cut him off. "It's yours, kid. Don't worry about it." Tommy felt a rush of warmth, and a tear slipped down his cheek as he took the flowers, cradling them gently in his arms. It wasn't just the gift of flowers he was receiving, it was the reminder that sometimes kindness comes from the most unexpected places. As Tommy turned to leave, a familiar voice called out from the door. "Hey, wait up." Tommy froze, turning around to see the woman from earlier standing outside the shop, watching him with a knowing smile. Final twist, she hadn't just helped him get the flowers, she had been the one to set this all in motion, guiding him toward a bigger understanding of what it meant to give and receive. "Take care of your mom, kid," she said, her voice soft yet filled with wisdom. "And remember, sometimes the best gifts are the ones that come from the heart, not the wallet." Tommy smiled through his tears. "I won't forget."